Shalom Israel, and welcome to another edition of Yasharal's 20-minute breakdown, where I'll attempt to break down the scriptures within 20 minutes. But first and foremost, as always, you know how we do. We give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Waha, Rakah, Kadash, and the Yakims and the elders in the highways and byways pushing this word in truth and sincerity. All praises. And the elder women teaching the younger women. All praises to you too. And the camps and the solo brothers going out there, making videos, edifying the body, pushing the truth according to scriptures. All praises. Now, what I want to touch on today is the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because we're in that month. And there are some brothers that's had their Passover already. There are some brothers and camps that are having theirs to come. And us, we had ours yesterday. We had our Passover yesterday, and now we're in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, that's just what I want to, bring to the table today is the Passover, which is a memorial of us being delivered, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, where we eat unleavened bread for 7 days, and why and what it signifies. So this should be not a long lesson. It's straight to the point, which I'm going to go to. It's not a long thing I'm on. I'm going to start first and foremost with Ezra chapter 6 and verse 19. That's going to be my opening verse, because we are still in captivity. And, as the scriptures say, we still keep the Passover wherever you dwell. You're in captivity or whatever. Like back in them days, the Israelites were in captivity and they still kept the Passover, as best as they could. Obviously, in this day and age where we are now, there are some things like that we have to kind of, give way to, where it tells you that you're supposed to have the lamb whole and not a bone broken, because that represents Yahweh Shai, where the scriptures did say in the book of Psalms, I think Psalms chapter 22, that not a bone of him will be broken. So really the lamb is supposed to be whole, but trying to get a whole lamb in this day and age and then try to roast it with fire, is the way how it's actually supposed to be done according to scripture. It's kind of a bit hard to do in these in the conditions we're in. So what we do the best we can, but still to try to keep the day holy as best as we can, congregate and keep the feast as it's best as we can, with the bitter herbs and the unleavened bread, and unleavened bread and the bitter herbs and the lamb. That's what I meant to say as well. And the lamb roasted with fire. See, we can roast the lamb with fire still here, but trying to get a whole one roasted, you'll have to put it in your garden, roast it, and well, that could be all kind of problems. Some people don't have gardens, and so you do the best you can, but it's still a memorial to be kept. So we do our best to keep it as near as we possibly can to how the scriptures say. But that's where grace now covers you for some of the things that you just cannot do. How it's described in the Bible in them times where they had the facilities to do this. In these modern times, we don't have a live, we live in the city, don't have a live lamb in order to slaughter it before, and and so forth. So I just want to quickly touch on the feast of the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So, and I'm going to open this lesson with Ezra chapter 6 and verse 19. I'm going to go through some scriptures, talk about it, and then close out. So there you have it. So with that, I've got my timer, and I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Boom, we're away. Yeah, here we go. Let's go. Ezra chapter 6 and verse 19, and it reads, "And The children of the captivity kept the Passover upon the 14th day of the first month. So here we see the Israelites, even though they were in captivity, they still managed to keep the Passover on the 14th day of the first month, which is, if I remember correctly, the month Abib. So they still managed to keep it as best as they can, even though they were in captivity. So, just like they were in captivity and they were able to keep it, we are in captivity too in this day and age. We're not in our lands, we're not under our, like with the whole world ain't under the laws of the Most High. Only a chosen few is actually trying their best to keep the commandments and have faith in Yahushai and, and keep these feast days as best as we can. Now, I'm going to go to the law where you find all the feast days. Now, I'm going to jump to the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, and I'm starting at verse 5. Listen to this. Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 5, and it reads, "In the 14th day of the first month, at even is the Lord's Passover." Now, there it is right there, showing you when the Passover is supposed to come in, right there. Now, I'm going to quickly jump to the book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 11. Listen to this. Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 11, and it reads, "And thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover." Now watch this, verse 12. "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." So he is Yahweh. So that's why you eat it in haste with your staff in your hand and your shoes on your feet, because when the Most High sends that death angel, which he did, through the land of Egypt to kill all the firstborn of like all the Egyptians, now Pharaoh is going to come and thrust, the Israelites, us out. So you have to be ready to go. That's why you eat it in haste. So those of you who's eating the Passover meal like it's a 3-course gourmet meal and you're taking your time, then no, you need to cut and swallow, chew and swallow and be ready to move. That's just a bit of humor there, but anyway, that's how the Passover is supposed to be kept, the meal. So there you see, so the point of the Passover is a memorial. So it's something that we're supposed to do every year, about, like the first month of the year, which is the month Abib, and 14th day in, and then the 15th day, the start of the, Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's just, a commemoration for what the Most High did for us, how he delivered us out of bondage and from the hands of the Egyptian, so we can go and we can serve him without fear, and we can keep his laws, statutes and commandments. That was the whole point of getting us away from the Egyptians. So now we can serve him how he said, and we're not bound by, should we say, other people that's dominating us. We're not bound by their laws. So that was the whole point of us being delivered, so we can serve him as he intended for us to serve him, without, having any restrictions or band on us. So we can serve him and he can be our power and we can be his people, and it was supposed to go well with us. But, as you can see, the condition of our people now, we haven't been keeping up these things and these feast days and the laws and even faith. We've lost everything through, slavery. But anyway, that's another matter. Now, with that said, I'm going to jump to the book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 6. Listen to this. Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 6. "And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord Yahweh. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread." Now there we go. So 7 days now. So straight after the Passover, and we've had the meal and all that, the next day onwards, from there onwards, 7 days, we must eat unleavened bread. yeah, unto the Most High Power. Now, I'm going to quickly jump to the book of Exodus, chapter 34 and verse 18, and it reads, "The feast of unleavened bread shall thou keep. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, as I commanded thee, in the time of the month Abib. For in the month Abib thou camest out from Egypt." So that's what even I was saying earlier. That's supposed to be the first month of the year, which it would be round the spring when things are just budding anew. That's New Year according to the Bible. Yeah, and even like this place, like what they have it as is the new financial year, which falls between March and April, normally. But that's supposed to be that's really supposed to be the first month of the year. Now, I'm going to stay in the book of Exodus, but I'm going to read chapter 12 and verse 15. Listen to this. Exodus chapter 12, verse 15, and it reads, "7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel." Showing you that now, if within this now, once we're hitting the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days, you must abstain from any foods and any products that has raisin agents or yeast in it. Yeah, and the Bible's clearly showing you that whosoever now eats anything that's leavened in that period of time will be outcasted from the house of Israel. Now, this is where you have to be wise as well, because in this day and age now, if you're somebody living alone, now it's easy for you to cast out everything that has yeast in it, because there are even some seasonings that have yeast in it. So we have to be careful of the seasonings that we season our meats with. Now, if you live alone, it's quite easy to go through your cupboard and throw everything out that has yeast or raisin agents in. But now if you, let's say you're married now, and let's say you're the husband and you've got your wife. Now you're in the truth and your wife isn't. Now it's hard for you to now go through the house and throw everything out that has yeast or raisin agents in. Because why? You're going to cause rifts and problems in your household. So what you do, you make sure you abstain from anything that has yeast and all that, raisin agents and all that. Because, you can't go in and just throw everything out, because what will happen is you will have problems. You will create problems in your household, because you may be in the truth and you know about the Passover and what you're doing and how holy it is to the Most High. But your wife, or if, your wife won't, and she has no idea that about these certain feast days and how they should be kept. Vice versa, if it's the wife that's in the truth and the husband isn't, vice versa. Now the wife can't go through the house and throwing everything out that's got yeast in it, because it's going to cause rift from the husband, because he's going to want to have his toast or whatever else he'll have. So these things we have to take into consideration and be wise, and not bring rift or trouble in your household. Now, check this out. I'm going to jump to the book of Luke, chapter 12 and verse 1, and it reads, "In the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy." Now, I brought that scripture clearly to show you that leaven represents sin. That's why we eat unleavened bread for 7 days. It's to represent removing sin from our minds and and our daily life, and not just for 7 days. It's a good marker to start, but let's try our best to be without sin for 7 days throughout the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And when we've accomplished that, let's try to do another day. See if we can get through another 24 hours. And if you manage that, try to get through another 24 hours. So let's try to increase being sinless. Let's pretend that the feast of Unleavened Bread goes on for longer than the 7 days, but obviously from the end, like from where the 7 days end, you can now start like having your foods with like leaven and yeast as normal. But let's try to keep leaven out of our minds and out on what we say and our conversation, what we do. So let's try to prolong that part. So let's have the marker first from the 15th day after the Passover meal, from the 15th day onwards for 7 days. It's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, where we actually will not consume anything that has leaven in it. But then after, when that ends, when we can now consume things that are leaven, let's try to continue as in the mindset rather than the abstaining from the food. Let's try to continue the mindset, like trying to be sinless as best as we can, because that's what that is talking about. Just like when you see Yahushua said to the people and his disciple first, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Because remember, when you read Matthew 23, and verses 1 to 2, it shows you that when it says the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, but then he says to us, all that they bid you, observe and do, but don't do after them. So they were sinning, even though they were teaching you, trying to teach you the law in not to sin. So that's what he's talking about. So like, I just brought that verse to show you that that leaven is sin. So let's try to abstain from sin from this point onwards as best as we can. Not just now, not, abstaining from leaven to now have our bread without yeast, so we can have unleavened bread. When the feast is over, let's try to continue it, like in our actions and our deeds and our words. Let's try to continue it there. Now, I want to quickly jump to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 5 and verse 7. Listen to this. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7, and it reads, "Purge out, therefore, the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ, our Passover, is sanctified for us." Verse 8, listen to this. "Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth." There you have it. There was the point I wanted to show you, that leaven represents sin. So being unleavened is without sin. Now, let's jump back to Exodus chapter 12, and I want to read verse 43, but there's a reason why. Check this out. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 43, and it reads, "And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof." And now, here's the thing now, when people read that, and then the next verse, verse 44 says, "But every man's servant that is brought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof." Now, people trying to link verse 43 and verse 44 to try to make it seem like the stranger that verse 43 is talking about is the same stranger that verse 44 is talking about. If you know the scriptures and know what the Passover signifies, you will clearly know it isn't. This stranger in verse 43 is talking about a non-Israelite. Now, it'll be pointless for a non-Israelite to celebrate the Passover because a non-Israelite wasn't delivered. And, I've heard people always say, yeah, but a mixed multitude came out. That's not the point. The mixed multitude took an opportunity while the Israelites were being delivered, because deliverance was for Israel only. They came out with them, that's up to them. But the whole point of this, it was the Israelites' deliverance. Because even when you go on, read further, when they get to the river and the sea parts, only the Israelites went through on dry ground. But the mixed multitude had already kind of fallen away by that point anyway. So showing you there. And when you jump to verse 44, let's read it. Actually, I did read it already. Showing you this verse 44 is showing you that this servant that is brought with money would be an Israelite. When he's been circumcised, then now he can eat. Because watch verse 45 of the same chapter, Exodus chapter 12 and verse 45. And then it reads, a foreigner or an hired servant shall not eat thereof. So it's showing you who can eat and who can't. So even as, and watch this, let me jump, actually, before I say anything, let's jump down to verse 48 of the same chapter, Exodus chapter 12 and verse 48, and it reads, actually, let's read verse 47 first. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 47. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it, showing you that the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is only for the Israelites. And watch verse 48 and verse 48. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 48. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover unto the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Now, because it says stranger or sojourner, people automatically think that's talking of someone of another nation. But watch this. Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 35, and it reads, and if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen into decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Notice in Leviticus chapter 25 verse 35, it says, if thy brother. Now watch this. Deuteronomy chapter 15 verse 12, and it reads, and if thy brother, a Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. I just brought that to show you that thy brother is a Hebrew man or Hebrew woman, someone of your own nation. I'm going to jump to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 6. Listen to this. Jeremiah, chapter 23 and verse 6. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. The two kingdoms coming back together, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom coming back together as one. And Israel shall dwell safely. And this is the name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. Now watch this, verse 7. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Verse 8, but the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all countries whither I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Showing you the next Exodus would be like us, like the whole 12 tribes coming back together and be delivered out of this final captivity we're in. So we'll no longer be talking about the deliverance of coming out of Egypt and that Passover. We'll now be talking about the modern one now, where he's gathered us all back together and we'll be delivered out of this captivity we're in now, and we'll dwell in our own lands. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. Well, I hope I made my point. So with that, this is Asherallah. We out.